Welcome to the Pretty Powerful Podcast, where powerful women are interviewed every week to share real inspiring stories and incredible insight to help women or anyone break the barriers, be a part of innovation, shatter the glass ceiling, and dominate to the top of their sport, industry, or life's mission. Join us as we celebrate exceptional women and step into our power. And now, here's your host, Angela Gennari.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Pretty Powerful Podcast. My name is Angela Gennari, and today I'm here with Karen Olson. Hi, Karen.
Hi, Angela.
I'm so happy that you're joining me. So, Karen Olson is the founder and CEO emeritus of the Family Promise, which is she has dedicated her life to transforming the present and futures of homeless and low-income families. And I totally butchered that, but you're transforming the futures and the present of homeless and low-income families. So tell me, this is just fascinating. Somebody who has really, truly dedicated their life to serving others. What made you want to take this step in such a huge undertaking?
I guess, the short answer is I was a consumer promotions manager for Warner Lambert, and I would go into New York frequently for meetings, and you know how it was hard to walk a city block without seeing someone who was homeless, a man lying on a subway grate or a woman pushing her shopping cart with her belongings in it. It was easy for me to go past these folks because I never really looked at them. I just whizzed by them, and I wasn't alone. I think most New Yorkers did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But this one day, I was about to pass a woman who was outside of Grand Central Station. This one day, I was about to pass a woman who was outside of Grand Central Station. She sat on a crate. She had her belongings in bags to her left and to her right, and she always looked down. She was frail. Say she was probably in her late 70s. And, I had seen her before, and this time I thought, well, I'm just going to run across the street and get her a sandwich. I don't know what compelled me to do that, but that's what I did. And when I came back, she said, "Thank you, God bless you. I haven't eaten anything since yesterday." And I thought, wow. And we stayed there. I stayed there and talked with her a bit. I learned her name. Her name was Millie. And she had been married. She was a mother. She lost her husband, and her one son died, and the other was on the West Coast. And she had a single room occupancy. She was staying in a single room occupancy hotel, and that was converted into condominiums. And she found herself on the streets. Sometimes she would stay in it. Sometimes she would stay in a shelter. But mostly she was on the streets or in Grand Central Station. So giving that sandwich to Millie, and when I gave her the sandwich, she reached out and took my hand. And at that point, I think I crossed an invisible line because I always been told, stay away from homeless people. They're dangerous. You don't do that. So here I was, not only giving her a sandwich, but she held my hand, and that invisible line meant I saw that she was a person. She wasn't simply a homeless woman. She was a person who now was experiencing homelessness. And that's the difference. And, I had a glimpse into her life. So after that, I then told my two sons, Doug and Brad, who were 10 and 12, about Millie and my experience. And Doug said, "Oh, let's go back into New York and bring more sandwiches to people like Millie." So that's what we did. We went, made 25 sandwiches and distributed them all too quickly in Central Park as we roller skated around. And we thought it would take us, an hour, half an hour, but, they were gone in 10 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. And we did that for a couple of years. And we got to know people by name. So that was the invisible line I crossed. So how do I go to 1 million volunteers? Well, um, I also had people that I met in Port Authority back to my house for Thanksgiving dinner because why should they be alone or even in a soup kitchen? So 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, I bought bus tickets back to my hometown of Summit, and they were so pleased to have the invitation to have Thanksgiving. And but again, another invisible line. Now I was inviting people from Port Authority back to my house. But the thing is, I knew them well. You know, there was John and Arthur and Abe and Lucille. So these were no longer homeless people to me. These were people who had lives. And um, so, you know, but the thing about that is that I, I'm not a very good cook. And here I was invited back to my house for Thanksgiving dinner. Not only that, I've never ever cooked a Thanksgiving dinner. But
Wow.
yeah, but fortunately, my neighbors chipped in, and Bill Harrison, who was a bond trader in New York, made the turkey, and other neighbors brought side dishes, and so it was really remarkable to sit around and talk and see the smiles on their faces, and, and they reminisced about Thanksgiving's past. So it was really, really quite remarkable.
That's amazing. So,
Yes.
what a huge heart. So, what was the span of time, after you crossed the first, you said the invisible line, right? So, when you gave
Yes.
the first sandwich to Millie and she accepted it and you had a conversation, how long until you were inviting people to your home for Thanksgiving? Was it fairly
Oh,
quick?
fairly quick.
Wow.
About from the time it was about 3 months.
Wow. That's
No,
amazing.
wait, no, that's not right. It was 10 months, 10 months, yeah.
Wow. So, what then prompted you to think this needs to be bigger than me and my family? What then encouraged you to start the family promise?
Uh-huh. Well, I began volunteering in Union County, New Jersey, which
Hmm.
is my home county, because I wanted to see what homelessness was like there, and in Elizabeth in particular. And what I saw and met were families who were homeless and sleeping in their cars,
Hmm.
had their kids. Many told me they were working, but simply they couldn't afford the rent. They got behind in their rent when some calamity came along. Maybe they lost their job or a divorce or something that caused uh, less income, and they became homeless with their kids. This one family I met, the Jacobs, they were living in their car, and they had a little bed for their 3-year-old, and that was their that was their home. And you know, he was working, and she stayed with the 3-year-old, and that just shouldn't happen in America. It just shouldn't happen in America. And I was shocked to see. I knew about homelessness in New York City, but of course you don't see homeless families in the suburbs because they stay out of sight, or you see them, but you don't know that you see them. For instance, when you drive through the drive-through at, say, Burger King, and the woman who hands you your burger and smiles and says, "Have a nice day." Well, she actually is homeless, and after her shift, she goes to sleep in her car. So you see that person, but you don't know that they're homeless.
Yeah.
And that's homeless families are pretty much invisible. So knowing that really motivated me to do something about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the number of working homeless is really shocking. There's so many people who who have a full-time job, but they're just not making quite enough to be able to afford housing, or it could be a credit issue, where they just can't qualify for housing. And so there's a
Right,
lot that needs to
exactly.
be done in order to really
Yeah.
combat the homeless problem that we have, because
Yes.
it is
Yes.
shocking.
Yeah. Well, for every 4 units of affordable housing, there's only one family that qualifies.
Really?
And yeah, and
Wow.
the minimum wage for or the poverty line for a family of four is $30,000, which throughout the year, which how do you do that? So really the issue is not homelessness, the issue is poverty. And then along comes, a divorce and illness. Your time is cut at work, and before you know it, you end up homeless. And so that's a tragedy. And today there'll be more cuts coming. We're going to see many more people who are homeless on the
Hmm.
streets, and it's shocking, and it shouldn't happen. So what I did when I saw that, I got to know people. I decided I had to bring that awareness to the religious community and the community at large, because I didn't think they knew. I certainly didn't until I was
Hmm.
there. I live in a suburban community, and the community I went to was an urban area, Elizabeth, New Jersey, and that's where I met families. And so I planned a conference on family homelessness, and I invited the community and the religious community in particular. And to my amazement, I was expecting about 100 maybe. It was an all-day conference on a Saturday. 200 people came,
Wow.
mainly from the suburbs. So, and they described the situation. And I said, you can make a difference, come to this conference. So that meant that people really do care, you know.
Hmm.
And so after that, I was determined to um, do something to really help and make a big difference. And but the problem was I couldn't devote my full time to this because I needed income. I was divorced at the time and raising my two sons, so I had to keep working. But then along came two angels at that time. The first angel was my father, who actually bought me a house,
Wow.
which is lovely. And so now I didn't have to rent anymore. I had a house of my own. And the other angel was Morris Bolsky, who was a technical writer for AT&T, and he helped me with some early newsletters, and he provided financial support equivalent to a salary. So it's
Mhm.
really amazing how that happened. Without those two angels, I don't think there would be a family promise,
Wow.
you know.
Well,
And
they say God sends you what you need when you need it. So when the time is
mhm.
right, the doors will open and you'll know what your destiny is.
Right, exactly. I should say, I mean, back up a bit. My mother died when I was 12,
Oh, I'm so
suddenly and
sorry.
tragically. Thank you. And so that changed my life as a young person. And I immediately became very empathetic to others, because I knew what it was like to cry myself to sleep at night, hugging a stuffed toy cat. And had a rubbery smiley face. And in a few short weeks, I had worn away the face through my tears that I shed. And so I wanted to do something to help people. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to be a nurse. That was the
Hmm.
obvious path to helping people. But my stepmother said to me, I was a nurse. You don't have what it takes to be a nurse. And she persuaded my father not to send me to nursing school.
Wow.
And I already knew what nursing school I wanted to go to. I wanted to go to St. Luke's hospital school in New York City. And so I was devastated when that dream was taken from me. But I'm glad that door closed, because look how it ended up. Another door opened. I gave a sandwich to Millie. Um, and then that got me more involved. And then I met homeless families, and then I planned the conference. And so sometimes it's good when one door closes, another will open. So I'm certainly glad it did close, because if I had become a nurse, if I were lucky, maybe today I'd be in charge of a floor or something.
Right.
But I'll say God had other ideas, and so with the other door opening, I've been able to help so many people.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So you have 1 million volunteers helping you in your mission to
Mhm.
combat homelessness and help low-income families. How do you even go about growing an organization and scaling it to that size? Is it operating just in New York City? Is this a nationwide organization? Can you tell me a little bit more about
Yeah,
Family Promise?
it's nationwide. We have close to 200 affiliates in 43
Wow.
states. And this is how it works and how we get 1 million volunteers. When after the conference, I met with a few people and began looking for a building, because we needed a building for shelter. And there was a lot of NIMBYism, not in my backyard. Nobody wanted
Hmm.
a shelter near them. So we faced that opposition. And not one church or synagogue could become a full-time shelter. And so we were really frustrated. And so I said to them, um, hey, what if we all take turns? Maybe we can do together that any one of us cannot do alone. So 12 religious congregations came together, and they took a week at a time on rotation with each other. That meant, say, Central Presbyterian Church Summit would do this about once a quarter, which was very doable. So now I had engaged churches and synagogues in sheltering homeless families. And that was sort of the secret sauce of the program, because volunteers, came and cooked meals. They tutored children. They read stories to toddlers. They sometimes brought their own family, their own kids to volunteer. And I remember this one family who came to volunteer. She came to volunteer, and she brought her daughter along. And she said to her daughter, who was 8, no, younger than that, 6, I think. Um, we're gonna go volunteer at church, and you're gonna meet some homeless families. And the daughter was, oh, okay, okay. And so they went to church, and kids were playing there. And so her daughter joined in and played with the kids. And, for about 2 hours, they just, kids who were homeless, kids who were volunteers. And, when kids meet kids, all they do is want to play. They don't necessarily label them as homeless or this or that. And so when it was time to leave, they got in the car, and the little girl said to her mother, when are we going to see the homeless?
Oh,
You know,
wow.
she didn't even know that they were homeless. And that says something about yet with an open heart of a child. She just saw other children, and went about the business of play. So I formed one program in Union County, and that was going to be it. But we had a 70% success rate at the time in helping families find housing. Today it's 81%.
Wow.
Um, yeah. So then others came to me, the surrounding counties, said, how do you develop this Family Promise program? So I worked with them, they developed theirs, then others heard about it. And then a couple of years later, I founded the National Interfaith, well, it was first called Interfaith Hospitality Network. We later changed its name to Family Promise. And then, others joined in, and I hired a staff and developed a way that the program could be replicated, created manuals, videos, and marketed, you might say, this program, but it wasn't a hard sell because what I found all across America is people really want to make a difference. It's not that they don't want to make a difference or volunteer, they just don't know how to help the homeless. They see them on the streets and they're not going to necessarily run across the street and buy a sandwich,
Yeah.
but they will come to their own church, stay overnight, prepare a meal, bring their own kids. So it grew because I hired a staff, and it was really, really beautiful. I retired in 2016 because I thought it was time to give somebody else an opportunity to lead. And I was fortunate enough to have someone in the organization, Klaus, who had been with me for about 20 years, and he helped to develop many of these programs. So I left Family Promise. I still continue to volunteer, but I was looking forward, after all this intense time of running the organization, to have time to be with my family and to travel a little bit. I went to India. I had a small condo in Miami. So I went there. And this one day I was sitting by the pool. It was such a nice sunny day. And I was thinking about the cryotherapy appointment I was going to have, but first I was going to have a massage. I had a massage. And then I went to my cryotherapy appointment. Cryotherapy, for those who may not know what it is, it's extremely cold temperature. You go in a chamber uh, with just your underwear on, and it's very, very cold. And I had done this about 30 times, both in my hometown in New Jersey, as well as in Miami. But this time, the tank got so terribly cold that my attendant, who was new, by the way, she had only 4 weeks of experience. Um,
Wow.
but I was assured that she knew what she was doing. She said, I cried out, I'm cold, I'm cold, I'm so cold, I'm cold. So she went to the back of the door and opened it, but she was behind the door. And I fell out because I was frozen like a popsicle.
Wow.
And yeah, and I hit my head on a raised ledge. And I had no feeling from my neck down. And so I immediately called my sons, and they came down. And anyhow, to make a long story short, I was in the hospital in Miami for a month. And then I came up to New Jersey to Kessler Institute and stayed there as an inpatient for 2 months. And then came home. I had to sell my house because I couldn't go up and downstairs. Anyhow, today I can take steps with the help of a walker and an aide. And so I'm improving. And the thing is, people who know me say, Karen, you're just as busy as ever doing podcasts like yours. I finished my book. I wrote
Mhm.
Men for More. Paul, I'll hold it up.
Yeah, that was actually what I was about to ask you about was your book because, through all of this, when do you find time to write a book? Because
Uh,
you are a very busy lady. So, I mean, scaling a
yeah,
huge nonprofit organization, getting 1 million volunteers, having 200 affiliates, you're a pretty busy lady. So,
yeah.
even stepping away and retiring, I get the impression that you weren't just going to relax. I love that you took a trip to India, and
Right.
I'm very sorry to hear about your accident. That sounds
Thank
awful.
you. Thank you,
Um,
Angela.
so tell me about the book and the inspiration for that and what readers could find.
Now, it's meant for more, following your heart and finding your purpose. And the reason I wrote the book was that I saw so many people making a huge difference in the lives of others. There was wonderful stories and wonderful stories of homeless families who got their lives back together through Family Promise. This one woman, Hope, She became homeless when she when she all of a sudden went blind one morning. She woke up and it was like she had frost over her eyes and she could barely see. And a neighbor helped her try to go to work, but she couldn't. She was a waitress. So she got behind in her rent and was evicted and came into the Family Promise program. And with her little daughter, uh, Angela was her name,
Mhm.
and uh, came into the program and got their lives back together. They met volunteers, Lou and April, who took her under their wing. And Lou and April are now the godparents of Angela. And it was just a healing, which happens with a lot of families who are in the program. They appreciate the meals, that they have a safe place to stay, and they get their lives back together with the work of social workers and volunteers. But what families talk about most are the caring and support of complete strangers who don't know them, but offer love and support. And that's really the secret sauce of Family Promise and the healing factor that takes place. Today, she has a job Hope has a job at a Verizon store, and she's manager,
Wow.
and her daughter is doing well. So lots of things happen in Family Promise. Just as families are helped, volunteers are helped as well. Like Pace, who was a volunteer. He worked for Sandia National Labs. But before he volunteered, he would say, I only have time for three things: church, work, and my family. But then all of a sudden, Family Promise came to his congregation and he got involved and had families back to his house, had a zip line there. And he said, Family Promise um, gave me a heart, enlarged my heart. And so he found another part of himself through volunteering at Family Promise, and he's still involved today. And now he's retired, and he's volunteers with other organizations as well. So volunteers often have remarkable experience. So I wanted to share those stories in my book, as well as my story, which I've told you quite a bit about, as a way of inspiring more people, to get involved. You don't have to start a big national organization. You don't even have to volunteer with an organization, be kind to your neighbor who is came home from the hospital, and maybe prepare the meal and bring it over when you're going through the toll booth, pay for the person behind you. And then it becomes a way of life when you do simple things. I remember once when I was away at a meeting for Family Promise, and when I came back, there was a heavy snowstorm. And I thought, oh boy, my driveway is going to be covered and everything. I came back and my driveway was completely shoveled, and the walk was shoveled, and the porch was shoveled. And I thought, wow. And then I saw a note that was in the door, and I took the note out, and it said, I hope I didn't mess anything up, but I knew you were away. So I shoveled your driveway, Chris. Chris was my neighbor who I really didn't know well at all.
Wow.
But I thought I was so touched by that, doing more than a simple act, but shoveling the driveway, that I couldn't bring myself to throw that note away. In other words, it kept coming up, so shoveling my driveway, that made a huge difference to me. Huge difference. So any act of kindness, leave a generous tip for a waiter, that's that sort of thing.
Yeah, there's so many ways that we can be kind and gentle to each other and give
Mhm.
grace because that's one of the things that I feel has really kind of we lost our way with is, we used to give so much grace to each other. We used to do things for our neighbors, and now we kind of stay
Right.
within our own little, walls. And it's been unfortunate because I think we've lost that human connection. And
That's
without the human
true.
connection, we lose that ability to have empathy and to really give each other
Mhm.
grace as needed. So I love that you've been so generous with your time and your attention and your giving. So I think that's wonderful. I wish we could
Mhm.
have more and more of that in this world.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's one of the reasons I wrote the book is to inspire others to get involved, I said.
Hmm.
And you can get my book at Barnes and Noble,
Okay.
Amazon, or bookshop.com. And it's been very well received, and I've had a
Good.
number of speaking engagements as a result of that. So,
That's
yeah,
wonderful.
life is good, and you know, maybe in a wheelchair, but life goes on, and I'm
Hmm.
happy, and I still volunteer, and yeah,
Absolutely. Well, and on the podcast, on prettypowerfulpodcast.com, we'll make sure that we have your link to your book as well. So I want to make sure that
great.
people can pick that up.
Thank
So,
you.
so when you were starting the Family Promise organization, what obstacles did you have to overcome in order to start that
Oh,
organization?
well, turf issues. There were agencies who didn't want me to start Family Promise. What they wanted me to do was to, they wanted me to raise money in the suburbs for other agencies and give it to them. I
Mm,
had a pastor who actually, I had bylaws that were, and a mission statement that was broad so that before we started Family Promise, we could do all kinds of things, not just shelter, but build housing and so on. And a pastor who was on our board didn't really like the idea of doing the direct service or maybe bringing the homeless folks into his congregation. So he rewrote the bylaws. And, I was shocked. And he was a big hotshot pastor, and well respected in the community. And I was shocked that he would do something like that. But I went around him, and a lawyer who helped write the bylaws was a member of his congregation. And he said, I'll fix uh, Jason, and he knew him well. So that was a big challenge, but and I stood up to authority, Sometimes we don't stand up to authority, but I wasn't going to let that happen. So I found a way. I find in my own life, if I'm passionate about something, I'll find a way. For instance, I never considered myself a leader per se when I was in the corporate world. I did well and I was being promoted, but I wasn't really, and I gave presentations, but I wasn't a leader. But what I found in developing Family Promise, my experience was that I was so passionate about this that, even a pastor who rewrote the bylaws was not going to stop me, I just found another way. So yeah, I
wow.
just, yeah.
When was that? What time period was that?
It was 1986 when I formed the first program. So
Well, that's
almost
amazing.
40 years
And
ago. Yeah.
what I love about that is that's a time period where, women were still struggling with some things like were we even allowed to have a bank account in our name as a business owner? You had to have a male
Hmm.
cosigner to get a business loan. And, there were
Hmm.
still so many struggles that women were having. And even though there was a perception that women were equal, there was still um, this cultural idea that we were still supposed to be more submissive and not be the forefront of an organization and not be taking the lead in that way. So I applaud you for your willingness to
Hmm.
stand up to authority and to challenge a
No,
pastor who
yes.
was rewriting your bylaws that you had taken so much time and
Yes.
thought
Yeah.
to put into. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And there were other obstacles as well. People on the board who wanted to raise money for other organizations. And the development of Family Promise cleared by only one vote. And
Wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I found myself definitely a leader. My role was inspiring congregations to get involved, so I did a lot of speaking across the country, forming the program. But then, of course, I hired a staff, and I was really running like could be, a corporation. I hired staff. We did research about the needs across the country. We trained staff on how to present the program, and we recruited volunteers and so on. So it was like running a business,
Mm-hmm.
and there were transferable skills that I had from my work with Warner Lambert.
Yeah. So prior to starting Family Promise, did you have any business experience at all? Because it is very much like running a
Yeah,
business.
yes, I did. I worked for a couple promotional agencies in New York City. I had an office in the Empire State Building on the
Wow.
64th floor. Yeah, very exciting.
Yeah.
And then I got a job as consumer promotions manager for the Warner Lambert Company, which later became Pfizer. And that was located in Morris Plains, New Jersey. And my role was to develop sweepstakes and coupon events for products like Schick razors and Listerman mouthwash.
Oh,
Now,
interesting.
yeah, well, it was interesting and I enjoyed it. And, I was competitive and so on, and creative, certainly. But it was a far cry from offering comfort to those who were disadvantaged. So I
Hmm.
still had this yearning in me, inside of me, for something more. I just, I was anybody that would look at me would say, well, you're divorced, but you're living in the suburbs, you have a nice house, you have two great kids, you have a great job. So why am I yearning for something more? I was, and that something more was helping people. And then that goes to giving the sandwich to Millie. So
Hmm.
yeah, I had considerable, well, no, I had about 7 years of business experience, but in that I found the transferable skills. I had to do research, I had to hire a staff, train the volunteers, problem solve. And so actually those 7 years working in the business field really helped me in developing a family promise. And what pushed me forward was the passion. If you're passionate about something, you're not going to let anybody stand in the way. You're going to find a way around.
Absolutely. And when you believe that, what you're doing is bigger than yourself, it's easier to be that force multiplier, the one that says, you know what, I'm fighting for something that's bigger than me, right? My purpose
And,
is bigger than me. So it makes it easier to go into battle knowing that.
yeah, it's very, very true.
So what advice would you give to your 18-year-old self? Probably the one that wanted to go to nursing school.
Oh, okay. Um, you're shy right now, Karen, and you don't have much confidence in yourself, and you don't always study to get the grades that you could have. But just hang in there because life is going to change. But hold your head up high. Look at the tragedy well, the death of my mother is always with me, but the tragedy that I overcame, and you're going to be doing good. But for now, hold your head up high, and things are going to change for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have spent a lot of time working very closely with families who are experiencing homelessness. What would you say are the main drivers of homelessness? Like what advice would you give to people who are close? Because I've heard we're all most of us are two paychecks
Yeah.
away from homelessness. So
Yeah,
what do you see
exactly.
as the number one driver that was kind of putting people in that position? And what advice would you give to others to just kind of safeguard against something like that happening?
Well, eviction, of course, and that comes about when you can't pay your rent, after
Mm-hmm.
after 2 or 3 months you're evicted, and then you join the ranks of the homeless. And you're evicted because maybe you had an illness and you were out of work, or you lost
Mm-hmm.
your job, or your hours were cut, or you got divorced, you had an illness. But the root cause is the lack of affordable housing and wages. In other words, there's a gap between one's income and what housing costs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the root cause. There's not enough affordable housing. For every 4 people who are eligible for federal housing programs, only one qualifies because there's not enough funding. So
Mm-hmm.
this is a huge problem. There are close to 3 million people who are homeless in the United States. And it only comes about by changing things through a commitment and a partnership between the private sector and government. So, as much as I love Family Promise, we became involved in advocacy in later years because we saw that it was a much bigger problem than than we could tackle, certainly. So, yeah, the root cause is the gap between one's income and the cost of housing. And until that gap is closed, you're still going to find homeless people. With how things are today, are just, and the changes we're experiencing with the big cutbacks in programs, we're going to see many, many more people
Mm-hmm.
hitting the streets and
Yeah.
living in their cars.
Well, and there's just so much that needs to be done, from big corporations being allowed to artificially inflate the cost of housing through, corporate
Mm,
ownership of
right.
houses that are meant to be for, first-time home buyers. These are supposed to
Mm,
be the affordable houses, and they're being bought up by large corporations, which should be illegal. We shouldn't be allowed to have all these, large corporations owning our single-family homes and our small affordable housing that it makes it very challenging for people to be able to go
mm,
into home ownership because the housing has gotten so expensive. I mean, even you can go into any part of my city, which is Atlanta, and I mean, I couldn't have purchased a house at this age, not out of college.
mhm.
I purchased my first condo when I was 23. There's no way that I
Well,
could do
that's
that
good.
now,
Yeah.
and still be able to afford it. It's gotten out of
Mm,
control. And then our wages have not caught up. Our federal minimum wage is still what, 7.35 an hour, which is just mind-blowing to me that has not
mhm.
increased.
Yeah, since 2009, I think it's 7.25 an hour, and it
Yeah.
hasn't increased since 2009.
Which to me
Yeah.
is but yet our housing, if you look at what our housing cost in 2009 and what our wages were, there was much more, in line, and now it's there's just it's so out of balance. But yeah, a lot of change needs to happen. I totally
Yeah.
agree. And it's great to treat the symptom, to treat the actual homelessness and to treat, giving meals to those who are the low income families. Like, I think that's all wonderful. And I think that is necessary. But you're right. We have to get to the root cause or we're not going to make any real
Yeah.
change.
We've got to go deeper.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yep. Just like with illness, you can't treat a symptom without getting to the cause of what's causing the symptoms. So, what other um, ways have you stepped into your power over the past, several decades that you've been running this organization and creating all this amazing change? Can you tell me about another way that you've stepped into your power in terms of leadership and taking on big initiatives?
Well, everybody sometimes says, oh, they're afraid of public speaking.
Mm,
And I was too. And I always am a little nervous before I give a speech. But, I'm led by my passion, and I'm told I give inspiring talks. And that helps to engage others. So that's one way I stepped into my power. Um, what else?
I would probably say the book too, because you're right. I mean, public
Oh, definitely in
speaking,
my book.
yeah,
Yeah,
because I mean, just you never know who's listening, you never know who's reading, and it could just be that one spark, that one trigger that catches someone's attention and leads them
right,
onto a path. So you just
right.
never know.
Well, here's the thing. Just like I had never cooked a Thanksgiving dinner, I considered, and I was going to have homeless people over. Um, I considered myself a poor writer. I never had written a book or even articles, but here I had an idea for a book. So other people chipped in and helped me. I mean, I had the idea, but I first started with a ghostwriter and then that didn't work out. So I found another one. And so different people really contributed to this book. And most of all, my assistant, Jen Rustum, who's with me right now. Jen, can you say hello? Hi.
Hello.
Um, so, yeah, writing a book definitely, and it's been very well received. So I am very proud of that. So
That's
I'm going to hold the
wonderful.
book up again.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I applaud you for everything that you've done because very few people have made the impact that you've made for families across the country. So thank you for all that you've done because that is just the most selfless, amazing story. And for somebody, and I find this a lot, it's those who have gone through really tough times themselves, like with you losing your mother at such a young
Mhm.
age that I feel like that's where those are the people who are the change agents. Those are the ones that are out there saying, I have something more to give. And they use,
Mhm.
what has happened to them to say, I have something to contribute. I know I can make a difference. So I applaud you for everything that you've done.
Thank you, Angela. Yeah, I find that that's very true. And then, of course, I'd have to say, stepping into my power is when I had the fall, and
Mm,
that could have just set me back. But I have lots of therapy, and now I'm able to walk, as I said, with the help of a walker. So I could have just said, "Oh my gosh, I don't have feeling in different parts of my body or my arms. I'm just going to sit back." But no, I took my power and I said, I'm going to get through this. And you know, I exercise. I go into New York for a certain kind of therapy. I go to Kessler. I have therapists who come into my house and help me walk. So, I would love to be able to walk, but my happiness is not dependent upon that. I keep going. So I certainly
mm.
stepped into my power and facing this, I guess you call it a tragedy, but um, I never cried over it. I just kept going. So I stepped into my power there.
I love it. Well, Karen, this has been such an amazing, insightful, and inspiring conversation. I really appreciate all of your time today.
Oh, thank you for having me,
My
Angela. I
pleasure.
really appreciate being here and talking to your listeners.
Well, thank you. And I just have one more question for you. What do you wish more people knew
Related to my work or just in general,
in general?
what I wish people knew. I wish they knew how happy they would feel if they stepped, you talk about people being in a rut in a very closed, focused way. I wish people knew how happy and good it feels to reach out to others. For those who are not reaching out to others, maybe they're building their financial resources or acquiring, luxury designer clothes or a second home, and they just that's their focus. I wish those who are not reaching out would know the joy of service and how happy they feel when they do reach out to others. That's what I wish that people would know.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. We've been my son and I serve every year, whether it's, delivering meals on our own or joining with an organization. This past Thanksgiving, I think it was Thanksgiving or Christmas, maybe Christmas Eve, we went out with another organization here in Atlanta and just went around and helped to feed and clothe the homeless that we saw. And
Mhm.
it's the best time you can spend is
Yes.
giving to somebody who cannot help you back, right? Like
Yeah.
that is true generosity, is doing something for somebody who cannot repay you and there's no
Can't repay
expectation
you.
of
Yeah.
repay. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's so
So,
many people experiencing homelessness in Atlanta.
mhm,
In
yeah.
fact, in the greater Atlanta area, we have 3 affiliates.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you for all the great work that you've done. And I know that your legacy will carry on for generations to come. And I would love to say that we will solve the housing and the homeless issue, but I don't foresee that happening in the near future. But I am so thankful
Okay.
for people like you in this world who have done so much to help others.
Thank you, Angela.
So where can people find you? Because we'll put all your links on prettypowerfulpodcast.com,
Uh,
but how else can they find you?
at Karen Olson, that's Karen Olson, Olson, author.com.
Hmm.
That's
Okay,
my website. Mhm.
perfect. Well, thank you again, Karen, and
You're
I
welcome.
really appreciate all your time today, and I will see everyone else at the next episode of the Pretty Powerful Podcast. Yeah, hope everyone has an amazing day. Thank you.
Thank you for joining our guests on the Pretty Powerful Podcast. And we hope you've gained new insight and learned from exceptional women. Remember to subscribe or check out this and all episodes on prettypowerfulpodcast.com. Visit us next time, and until then, step into your own power.